Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Tuesday, December 30th, 2025, and today we are talking about producing your own mulches, should you, our current business model, and the lottery. I didn't win the $1.8 billion Powerball for you, but I did go down a rabbit hole worth sharing, so let's do it. All right, everyone, welcome to Tilth Tuesday. Every Tuesday is brought to you by our friends at Tilth Soil, including New Year's Eve, and it's officially their pre-sale season for 2026. So check that out at tilthsoil.com/farmers to get a pretty sweet deal on potting mix for next season. Link will be in the show notes. I hope everyone is finishing out your 2025 year with a bang. It dropped from 70 degrees on Sunday to 19 degrees last night. So that would be like 21 degrees Celsius to -7 Celsius in just over 24 hours. And in the middle of the day, at least for a time, the wind chill was -1 degrees Fahrenheit or -18 degrees Celsius as it roared out of the north. I think it's probably the coldest wind has ever been. At least that's what it felt like. Needless to say, yesterday was not a super productive farm day, but I did manage to clean up some space inside of our wash pack and get some computer stuff done. So that's something. There are some workable temps on the horizon, though, which is good because that cold December set me back a bit on my farm cleanup tasks. Also, being the end of the year, I can see on my Precip app that we are finishing the 2025 year with 64.05 inches of rain in 2025. That would be 163 centimeters, right? Is that right? So an unreal amount, and especially considering it didn't rain at all for basically like 2 months this summer, which was not my favorite 2 months, but was almost better than the 2 months that it just did nothing but rain in April and May. I am expecting something closer to 40 inches next year. We are in the like 45-inch range in general, which is much more sane. 64 is just cruel when you don't even get the tropics that usually come with that sort of rain level. Anyway, don't forget, tomorrow we will be going live at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to cap off our 2025 growing season and look forward to 2026. Very exciting stuff. Bring your burning questions and we will knock those out to ring in our new year. I mean, as much as anyone can ring in a new year at 9 a.m. See you then. All right, so today is our last mulch segment of the series and year, and I thought we'd talk about where it is and isn't worth producing your own mulch. This may be compost, or it may be straw, or hay, or leaves, whatever it is. Does it make financial sense to generate your own, and how could you tell if it does? Let's go through some different mulches and look at it. Now, for some of you, I know you are just on a backyard scale, and let's say, for instance, raking enough leaves to cover your beds is probably a big task, but doable. Collecting enough leaves for half an acre or more, well, that's a different story. You would need an uninterrupted month of raking, approximately, but also just completely arbitrarily, to rake enough leaves to cover half an acre of garden beds. And you'd also have to have probably dozens of acres of deciduous trees shedding their leaves. Setting aside the fact that leaves aren't always the best mulch, depending on the crops that you grow, almost no crop is going to generate enough revenue to justify that use of time. So sticking with the leaves for a minute, you would need a collector of some sort and a riding mower to go along with it, assuming you don't have either. That's maybe like $5,000 to $10,000 investment for a decent setup. Now, you could also collect fresh grass clippings in the spring with that. So depending on what your mulch cost is right now, that could save you money in 10 to 15 years of use. And of course, that example assumes that you don't have anyone, eager to just drop off free leaves from the county. Now, for a compost mulch system, some amount of horsepower is going to be required to do it efficiently, like a tractor with a front end loader or a skid steer or one of those awesome little dingoes that you stand on that should be way more affordable than they are because they seem like the perfect tool for small scale farming, but they cost like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 used. So anyway, something like that, though the tractor is going to be the cheapest option of those, and you can do quite a few things, obviously, with a tractor, from mowing to soil prep to just moving stuff around. So starting around $15,000 or so for a tractor with a loader, 20 maybe, 25, that would probably take you around the same amount of time to recoup the expenses as the sort of mower collector option, depending on, of course, on whether or not you can get access to an adequate quantity of raw ingredients. That would be like wood chips, manure, etc., for free, preferably also delivered to you. That takes a little bit of your time, your labor costs down. Compost can be costly to purchase, so those savings actually could add up pretty fast, depending on your scale and with, like any equipment that you already have. The math only works if you actually maintain the tractor, though, or mower, etc., the entirety of its loan terms, and then preferably beyond that. So for those examples, I could see it working out as long as you are able to and willing to maintain the equipment well, which, not going to lie, is not always my strong suit. Not the most engine savvy dude. For other examples, it may be a little tougher to justify the equipment. Straw, for instance, assuming you already have the equipment and land to use for growing the actual grain, you would need a mower, a rake, a trailer, and a baler. Oh, and storage space if you don't have that already for all the hay. The rake and the sickle bar mower and trailer can all probably be found pretty affordably at an auction or at Craigslist or whatever, but balers are complicated, so you do want to make sure that thing really works well before purchasing it. They're going to run you probably $15,000 to $30,000 for a decent one, unless you are machine savvy. Then you could probably get one for cheaper and fix it up and / maintain it for yourself. But me, again, probably not the route I would go. That, of course, also applies to hay, mower, baler, trailer, space to keep it, all those things. All that to say, unless you intend to make straw / hay a huge part of your business, and unless you have the land to grow the grain and the equipment required, it's going to be much harder to recoup that cost as opposed to compost and or leaves. And yes, unfortunately, that includes that cute little BCS baler, setup, which I would love. It makes those little round bales that looks like you can just pick them up by your hands and then roll them out over a bed. It's genius. Anyway, then of course you have options like the flail mower collector. So an industrial size mower with, an industrial size way to collect the clippings on the back, which could likewise pick up leaves as well as fresh grass clippings. You could purchase one of those plus the tractor with the loader, make compost from the fresh grass clippings, turn it with the bucket on the tractor, collect leaves, all the things, but that's not going to be cheap either. Arbitrarily, $10,000 to $20,000 depending on the makes, models, attachments, years they were made, etc. for the flail mower collector. So anyway, I did this as much as a thought experiment as anything else, just kind of explored this idea, but I think it just really drives home the idea that anytime you want to add a system to your farm or gardens, doing a full cost analysis and an enterprise budget is going to be important, because you may find it is cheaper, less stressful, and easier to simply pay someone else to own all that equipment and bring you hay or compost, etc. Or perhaps come to your farm and you pay them to bale that hay for you. That's also an option for sure. This may not be cheap, but if it's going to take you 15 years to pay off your equipment, that is itself all the while depreciating, breaking down, and needing upkeep, then it just may not make financial sense to quote unquote close the loop. For us, we've resisted getting a tractor for, a decade and a half now, because every time I sit down and do the numbers and think about what it would require for me to maintain it, I realize, strictly speaking for us on this farm, that we are fine without one. Even if sometimes I could really use one or just kind of want one to do this or that project. Neighbors can be helpful for that, but I also don't like to lean too heavily on my neighbors, they're unusing their equipment. So anyway, I know there will be some differing thoughts on this in the comments, so I will leave that to you, and we can continue that conversation on Feedback Friday, which is Friday. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's a very farm business sort of day, obviously, because I'm going to talk about the lottery in the third segment. So anyway, next, let's talk about farm business models. BRB. We got to beat West Ham today. We need those points. Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. Farmers who partnered with Farmhand say they grew an average of 63% this year because it's more than software. Farmhand is your business coach and assistant, helping to sell out, save time, and grow smarter with real data from real farms, shaping websites that convert, campaigns that sell, and fulfillment systems that run smoothly. Curious what that looks like? Meet the founder, Ari, at farmhand.partners/no-till and see the same insights and support the fastest growing farms rely on every week. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. Today's episode is also brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud supporter of Growers Daily. At Johnny's, they do more than sell seeds. They grow them. They trial them to see how they perform on Johnny's research farm in Maine and across the U.S. and Canada. Only the best varieties are added to their catalog and website. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seedling to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. JohnnySeeds.com. That's JohnnySeeds.com. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Richard Gould, who writes, quote, "Curious about your current business model. I'm not in the business and have no plans to be in the future, but my particular autistic nature loves such details," end quote. All right, Richard, thanks for the fun question, and I'm happy to share whatever, but business model is kind of a broad term, so I will boil it more down to what we focus on and where we sell our food currently, contrasted with what our model was a few years ago. 2026 will be our third season not doing a farmer's market. And although dropping the farmer's market reduced our revenue considerably, I don't, at least at the present, miss it very much. Not saying I don't miss the customers or the activity itself, which can be quite, fast-paced and exciting and fun. And we had some great customers. I definitely do miss some of those, but I don't miss the amount of time and work and money it required to do the farmer's market well. I basically ended up spending Saturdays and Sundays gone the whole day, leaving before the kids woke up on Saturdays at least. And then I'd come back, home exhausted after a long day of talking and working. So especially when the kids started school, it became frustrating to me that I was missing whole chunks of their lives. And for me, there just is no amount of profit in the world that makes that worth it. Moreover, I couldn't coach soccer if I was doing the farmers markets on Saturdays and Sundays. And that's something that is likewise important to me. So sure, we could have outsourced the farmer's market, paid someone else to do it, but I didn't like the sort of uncertainty of that, of spending 2 days, harvesting and depending on people who could get sick or not show up with thousands of dollars worth of veggies ready to go to market. This is maybe where the farm collab idea comes in handy, being able to split that responsibility and trust with partners who show up. But anyway, also, the other farmers markets options that we had during the week weren't probably going to generate the amount of revenue that we needed. So we dropped our farmers market 2 seasons ago now, and it's been, great. We have our weekends. Our Fridays aren't quite as intense. Now we focus on a couple restaurants and a few other odds and ends, and it works out fine for us. If we were really ambitious, we are not. If we were, we could easily get back to, the net income that we were generating before when doing the market without doing the market by doing more restaurants and stuff. But for the moment, we are happy to limit our production while our fruit projects slowly come into production and we start to engage the kids more in helping out around the farm. At some point, if they seem interested, which is, they vaguely are now, I could see returning to the markets in the summer at some point just with their help, but I'm not going to force them into standing there for 8 hours just to do it. We don't want farming to become a chore for them. We want it to be enjoyable like it is for us and not painful like it was for so many people who grew up on farms that I've spoken to over the years. We want them to find their way to farming or to agriculture in some respect or to ecology or whatever it is. We want them to find that to be fun and attractive, but not a source of stress. But don't model your farm after us. Model your farm after what your community needs and what you want and what your farm can handle. Me, I work 2 jobs, obviously, right? The one that you're watching and or listening to right now, plus, the farm, because that's the balance I like personally, a balance of creativity, writing, presenting, and then also farming. Perfect, but perfect for me. I'm also just not super passionate about the business stuff, nor is Hannah. So we had a chance a few years ago to really grow this operation, and we realized we just weren't passionate enough about the business side to really make it work and enjoy it. So we've found the right balance for ourselves for now. Some folks really love the business stuff, and we need those sorts of people in agriculture. I mean, that pretty much has to be the majority of people in agriculture. And you do have to have some interest or at least some tolerance for the business stuff to make a farm work. But it's also okay if it's just not your thing. And I like where our farm is right now. On the business stuff, we do the bare minimum. And I know I harp on this a lot, but it really is important in running a farm that you understand that it is just another business at its core, that you are buying a widget, seeds or baby animals or plants or what have you, adding as much value to that widget as possible, then reselling it. The machinery that alters the widget has to work well, the soil. The equipment has to be well maintained and the employees kept happy and well compensated, which is not a metaphor, literally equipment and employees. Food has to get sold, it has to get to the customer, taxes have to be paid, insurance bills, all the things. If that does not sound like fun, it may be worth working for or with someone else for whom that stuff gets them pumped. It is perfectly okay to not start your own farm. That for you, the farm model is simply to be a farm worker or a co-owner and not just like a farm business owner. So with all that said, our farm and model is not really for everyone, or maybe for anyone but us. But, and I'm not also saying that it won't change, but for the moment it works. Talk to me in a year though and see, how I feel as the kids grow, as I get older, as the world changes. Our farm is ever evolving. I could easily see myself doubling down on the production stuff again one day if the kids are interested in, helping, or just staying the course if not and looking for a new balance. Either feel equally as likely to me. Anyway, I'm not sure that fully answers your question or addresses the topic fully, but love the topic suggestions like this, and Patreon members, feel free to get yours into the December, soon to be Jancember, I think is what they call it, show thread. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we hit the jackpot of random things Jesse wants to talk about. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by FarmRaise. Still struggling with your balance sheet? Your lender's asking for a balance sheet and you're stuck with a spreadsheet mess or guessing your numbers? FarmRaise Tracks takes the stress out of farm finance. With one click, you can generate an accurate, up-to-date balance sheet that shows your assets, liabilities, and equity. No accounting degree required. You'll be ready for loan applications, tax season, or just a clearer picture of where your farm stands. Join thousands of farmers using Tracks to build stronger businesses. Get 20% off with code NOTIL20 at farmraise.com for the lifetime of your membership. All right, back to the show. All right, so on Christmas Eve, a Powerball jackpot of $1.82 billion was drawn here in America, and specifically the winner was in Arkansas. Hopefully they listen to the show and will use some percentage of that money to help farmers and ecological projects in their area. That's my farm tie-in. Done. First, I should say that I'm going to talk about gambling here, and although I'm fascinated by the lottery system, I don't want to be flippant about the dark side of this, gambling is addictive. It destroys homes. It can be really hard on people. I am lucky that gambling has never been an addiction of mine, but I have suffered several other addictions in my life, so I know how incredibly hard it can be to break one. If you struggle with gambling, it would just be, maybe better to skip this segment. And that is also because the reason I'm talking about this is, I learned loads of random things about the lottery this week, and this is going to be a random topic that I am fascinated by and nothing very farm related. What kicked off this particular rabbit hole for me was that after the drawing on Christmas Eve, I found myself curious about the $1 billion jackpot. This was like the second largest jackpot in history, but the first was in 2022 worth $2.04 billion, which the crazy thing about that is if you just removed $2 billion, that's still $40 million. Anyway, the third biggest in the history of the Powerball, though, was back in September of this same year of 2025. 13 of the 20 biggest jackpots have all been since 2023, with the 10 highest of all time having been from 2016, so less than 10 years. That seemed odd to me, so I dug a little deeper in, or actually I just read some articles by journalists who had dug deeper in. But anyway, the new giant jackpots weren't driven by new interest in the lottery, well, not originally, and it wasn't inflation or generosity on the part of the Powerball group or anything like that. It was that in 2015, Powerball changed the odds by increasing its number of white balls from 59 to 69, but its number of red balls decreased from 35 to 26. What this did was make it easier to win a small prize, which keeps you playing. If you get just the red Powerball, for instance, that's like $4 to you or something like that, so enough to buy 2 more tickets and keep playing. But it makes the jackpot harder, taking the odds from 1 in 175 million to 1 in 292 million. To put that percentage of winning the jackpot in perspective, because numbers are not always easy for us humans to wrap our brains around, 1 in 292 million would be like having 512 copies of Tolstoy's War and Peace, and me picking a single word in one of those copies, and then you trying to pick that exact same word. Or let's do a farm one. 1 in 292 million odds is like having 405 acres of carrots, and you pull the exact right carrot. So not impossible, but pretty much impossible. So yeah, anyway, they changed the odds, and then the jackpots ballooned like mad. So that was interesting. But another interesting thing that I spent an unnecessary amount of time reading about was the options for taking the payout. So basically, when you win, there are 2 options for getting the money. The first is the cash option, which for the $1.82 billion prize from Christmas Eve meant that you had the option of taking $834 million instead, give or take many, many millions. So almost $1 billion less to just take the money. I mean, obviously still an outrageous amount of money, but about $1 billion less. But I'm much more fascinated by the second option, which is the annuity payments. This would be to take all the payments stretched out over many, many years. Taxes and fees and duration differ a little bit by state, but what this is basically instead of the lump sum option, that 800 and whatever million, you take your winnings over 30 years or so. And if you were to pass away, the winnings would continue to come to your estate. But it wouldn't be like $1.82 billion divided by 30. You receive the winnings and payments that essentially increase 5% each year. The attraction to this is that you get more of the money. In this case, the net payout after taxes would be something like $1 billion, depending on your state, instead of 800 whatever million, and you would pay less in taxes. So it's worth almost $200 million more to take the slow and steady route, with your first payment being around $16 million and your last one being around $66 million net in 30 years, which with inflation would feel like about half that amount. Because right by the time you got to 66 million would feel like 33 million or whatever. Fascinatingly to me, though, almost no one takes the annuity payments. Literally, as far as I can tell, all major jackpots that have been won, like recently, have been lump summed. Part of that is the winner probably feels like they can use the market to generate the rest back in 30 years, get back up to that $1 billion or whatever using good financial advisors. Part of that is just a lack of trust in the system that it will be up and running in 30 years. And part of that is just, well, they didn't have $1 billion or $834 million yesterday. So, either one seems like quite the score. But after randomly daydreaming about this for a while, I kind of see the annuity option as the pragmatic, potentially philanthropic option, where winners could literally give millions of dollars to, for important instance, many ecological projects and regenerative farmers or whatever, and do so for like 30 years or more. Lots of money every single year, just a good sustaining amount. The end result would obviously, of course, not be that the winner is a billionaire in 30 years, which great. I mean, what an embarrassing, title that would be to have anyway. Instead, they could walk away with many millions for retirement and a better, healthier world to retire into. And maybe the ability to finally financially justify that BCS walk behind Baylor. Super bonus. Of course, I think it goes without saying the lottery is a complete waste of money. Again, 1 carrot per ticket in 405 acres of carrots. That would be like half of Central Park. That's how much 405 acres is. And it's especially true if you're playing it for any other reason than just to have fun and daydream about the world, having a worthwhile billionaire for once, because chances are you're not going to win. But a worthwhile billionaire like you, if you have listened to this rant or this show for any amount of time, you rock. Anyway, random rabbit hole there, but it was a little bit fun. Play responsibly and all that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts. And otherwise, that's it for this Tilth Tuesday. We will catch you all tomorrow for the live show at 9 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You may want to do those soon. It is the end of the year, so if you want those end of the year tax breaks, get in on that. There will be information about how to do that in the show notes. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. You almost leaned in. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soul Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of December, you get a shout out in the show. So big shout outs today to Sabra. I imagine you do have to roll that little R. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like it's got to be Sabra, right? Just a little roll. Anyway, Sabra keeping the story going today. Yesterday, we learned about Ridge and his mother, Linz. Think Lindsay, like spelling, not like lens like glasses. She likes to clarify that. Anyway, Linz and Ridge move to Florida, moving away from a cult in Wales. I don't know why. Nothing against Wales. This cult just happened to be in Wales. So anyway, go Wrexham. And they missed, they enjoyed the move. They needed the move, but they missed the community. So Linz put out a call to see if any other single moms in the area wanted to start a farm together. And she gets some good responses. And in fact, as you will remember, one of those responses has some land of their own. So they all moved to this large property in Central Florida with 200 acres of citrus trees. Living my winter dream, of course. There are a few different living options on the farm, including, the main house, and it gets off to a really good start. Linz doesn't have any experience with growing citrus, but gardening has always been her job, or it was in the cult in Wales, so she takes that over and kind of controls the, does the gardening and the food and all that stuff. There are 3 other moms who divide and conquer the rest of the stuff. Like 2 set up the citrus management regime. One of them, works on the books, and one of them designs the Citrus City logo and gets to work on the marketing side, and within a few months, they are up and running with the farm stand and contracts to sell citrus to health food stores all over the East Coast. Moms, am I right? But then one day a group shows up at Citrus Farm and they ain't happy. But that is for Thursday, actually, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is live. Anyway, that is on Thursday, when the Citrus City Showdown returns. Thanks for watching and or listening. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. Bye.
Delta Airlines just turned 100 and is already shaping the next century of flight with the Delta Sustainable Skies Lab. Here, they're building the future of flight. Think electric air taxis and next-gen aircraft aiming to cut fuel burn significantly. And this isn't just future talk. Today, their fleet of Boeing 737s have marine-like finlets designed to reshape airflow that reduces drag. The future of travel is more sustainable, and Delta's leading the way. Learn more at delta.com/sustainability.